Dear students, I am Mahesh Javalkar from Maratha Mandal Polytechnic, who had done the MCQs on semiconductor devices in my last two videos, which could help you for your DCT appearance. And today I'm going to post my third video on the same continuation of semiconductor or devices. And let's start with the next question. So the next question is question number 31, and the question is asked as, at absolute temperature, an intrinsic semiconductor has dash. Okay, at absolute temperature, an intrinsic semiconductor has dash means what? It will not have any charge carriers which will make a current to flow. An intrinsic semiconductor will not have any charge carriers, whether it is electrons or holes. It will not have even electrons, it will not have even holes. So there will be no current flow appearing in intrinsic semiconductor at absolute temperature. So for this question, the right answer has to be the option D, where it says no holes or free electrons. So here you can see the right answer is no holes or free electrons. At absolute temperature, an intrinsic semiconductor has no holes or no free electrons. That means no charge carriers which can help you to make a current flow. Clear? Then we'll go to the next question. Next question is question number 32. At room temperature, an intrinsic silicon crystal acts approximately as. Okay, now at room temperature, and that too we are speaking about an intrinsic semiconductor. So intrinsic semiconductor is not allowing you any flow of current. So the substance or the material which will not allow you a flow of current is called as insulator. So that means in these options A, B, C, D, if you see option C, an insulator will be the right answer. Okay, so insulator is a material which will not allow any flow of current. Therefore, at room temperature, an intrinsic silicon crystal acts approximately as an insulator. Then we'll go to the next question, question number 33. The term bias in electronics usually means dash. Okay. Now the term bias actually means we are applying a DC voltage. Bias, actually the meaning of bias is you are applying a DC voltage so that for whichever device you are applying that voltage, that device works properly. Okay, works properly. Say for example, in your transistors, you apply a bias for the emitter base junction to be forward bias and a bias for the base collector junction to be reverse bias. That means you have to apply a proper DC voltage, and then only you can use that transistor as an amplifier or as an oscillator. Okay, that means it is the answer C. Answer C says that the value of DC voltages for the device to operate properly. So here the answer has to be C. So the term bias in electronics usually means the value of DC voltages for the device to operate properly. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question. Question number 34. A Zener diode is invariably used with. Okay, now we know about Zener diode. It is almost every time in every application it is used in reverse bias condition only, because it is having a sharp breakdown there, and it can be used as a voltage regulator also. At a particular specific voltage it is going to give you a rise in current, and therefore it is always used in reverse bias. So here the answer has to be A, reverse bias. So a Zener diode is invariably used with a reverse bias. Then we'll go to the next question, question number 35. The crystal diode is used as a, okay, so the options here are rectifier, amplifier, oscillator, and any of the above. Okay, now a diode is used for rectification only. It can convert a alternating quantity into a direct quantity. A quantity which is varying in both sides, bidirectional, can become a unidirectional quantity. Okay, so it can be used as a rectifier. That means in a general term we can say it can do AC to DC conversion. Okay, so it cannot be used as an amplifier or oscillator. It can be used as an rectifier. It is the main application of a diode. So here the answer has to be A, rectifier. Okay, so the crystal diode is used as a rectifier. Then we'll go to the next question, question number 36. The maximum reverse voltage that can be applied to an ordinary semiconductor diode without irreversible damage is called? Okay, now here the maximum voltage you are applying in reverse condition, reverse bias condition. That means if you look at the graph is in the third quadrant. How much voltage you can apply? So you will go on increasing the voltage what you can apply till a breakdown occurs. Once a breakdown occurs, which is called as an avalanche breakdown, then the current will increase. Then that voltage can go to some limit. Above that, if you increase the voltage, the device will get damaged. Diode will get damaged. Okay, so that voltage up till which you can go in a reverse bias condition, that is called as peak inverse voltage, PIV. So here in these options, out of these four, the C option, that is peak inverse voltage, will be the right option. The maximum reverse voltage that can be applied to an ordinary semiconductor diode without irreversible damage, this is very important, is called as peak inverse voltage. That is the maximum inverse voltage what you can apply to the diode without damaging it. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question, question number 37. A Zener diode is used as, okay, now we know that Zener diode is having a speciality that in reverse bias condition it is having a sharp breakdown. The current will increase at a specific voltage. Okay, that means that feature is useful to make it as a, to use it as a voltage regulator. So here the option will be voltage regulator. A Zener diode is used as a voltage regulator, which is the main application of Zener diode. In every book you read this, the main application of Zener diode is to be used as a voltage regulator. Okay. Then we'll go to question number 38. In a bipolar junction diode, okay, that is BJT, there are four options given. Option A is the base region is sandwiched between emitter and collector. B, the collector is sandwiched between base and emitter. C, the emitter is sandwiched between base and collector, and D is none of the above. Now we know that in BJT we have two types, PNP and NPN. So the first layer, that is called as emitter, the second layer is called as base, and the third layer is called as collector. So the base is very thin, but it is a layer which is lightly doped and sandwiched between emitter and collector. So here the option has to be option A, where it says that the base region is sandwiched between emitter and collector. So in a BJT, the base region is sandwiched between emitter and collector. This is the option. Then we'll go to the next question, question number 39. Amplifiers and oscillators using BJT, bipolar junction transistor, operate in dash region. Okay. Now, whenever you are going to use BJT as an amplifier or oscillator, you are going to have a negative feedback or positive feedback, whatever it is. In that case, the BJT should be operated in active region only. It cannot be operated in cutoff or saturation. If you want to use it for switching, you can use it for cutoff and saturation. But if you want to use it as an amplifier or oscillator, you have to use it in active mode, active region. So here the second answer, that is B, active, will be the right answer. Amplifiers and oscillators using BJT operate in active region. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question, question number 40. A transistor has dash. So here the options what are given are 1 p-n junction, 2 p-n junction, 3 p-n junction, or 4 p-n junction. Now we know that a BJT transistor, a bipolar junction transistor, has three layers. Either it is PNP or NPN. And when you are having three layers like this, you will be having two junctions. So there are 2 p-n junctions existing in a transistor. So here for this question, the option B will be correct, 2 p-n junctions. Okay, so a transistor has 2 p-n junctions. It has three layers. It has three terminals, emitter, base, and collector. Okay, but it has 2 p-n junctions. So here the answer is 2 p-n junctions. Clear? Then we'll go to the next question, question number 41. The base of a transistor is dash doped. Okay, now the base is a region which is sandwiched between emitter and collector. In a BJT, the base is a region which is sandwiched between emitter and collector, which is lightly doped. Okay, it is lightly doped and it should have very few charge carriers, so that a very few current is a small current is constituted from the base region, and a very few majority charge carriers of the emitter will get combined with them in the base region, and rest all majority charge carriers have to pass over to the collector region. That is why the base region is very thin in size and it is lightly doped. So here the answer will be C, where it says that the base of a transistor is lightly doped. Doping of that semiconductor is lightly done. There are very few majority carriers in that. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question. Question number 42. In a PNP transistor, the current carriers are dash. Okay. Now here in a PNP transistor, the main current carriers are which will arise in the emitter region and they reach the collector region. So if it is a PNP, so in P the majority carriers are holes. That means holes are going to arise from the first P emitter and they will go to the base in N, little of them will combine and rest all will go to the collector. Then lastly again it is P. So the majority carriers over here are holes. Holes are making the main current which is flowing in a PNP transistor. So here the answer will be D, holes. So here in a PNP transistor, the current carriers are holes. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question. Question number 43. A transistor is a dash operated device. And here the options are current, voltage, both current and voltage, and none of the above. Okay. Now here if you see the working of a transistor, you can see that by varying the input current, you can vary the output current. Okay, by varying the input current, whatever you give at the base, that with that you can vary the output current, whatever you can see at the collector. Okay, that means it is operated by a current. So it is current control device. Therefore, a transistor is a current operated device. So here the option will be A, that is a transistor is a current operated device. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question. Question number 44. The input impedance of a transistor is. Okay. Now whenever we speak about input impedance of a BJT, either it is PNP or NPN, the input impedance will be a impedance of the first junction, and the first junction is between emitter and base. And we always see that emitter base junction is forward biased. Emitter base junction is forward biased, and when it is forward biased, the resistance has to be low, the impedance has to be low. So the input impedance of a transistor is low. So here the option will be option B, that is low, because your emitter base junction is forward bias, and because it is forward bias, the impedance or the resistance will be less, it will be low. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question. Question number 45. In a transistor, which of these options are correct? In the first option they say collector current is equal to emitter current plus base current. In the second option they say base current is equal to collector current plus emitter current. In the third option it says emitter current is equal to collector current minus base current. And in the fourth option it says emitter current is equal to collector current plus base current. Okay. Now here we know that the starting current which arises from the emitter is called as emitter current. A small base current arises after that, and then a large collector current will come out. Okay. So in that case, emitter current is equal to collector current plus base current. So option D, where IE is equal to IC plus IB, is a correct option here. Okay, now we'll go to the next question. Question number 46. The value of alpha of a transistor is dash. Okay, now alpha means what? If you remember the definition of alpha, alpha is a current amplification factor or current gain in common base configuration. Current amplification factor or current gain in common base configuration. That means it is a ratio of output current to input current. Okay, now in common base, the output current will be collector current IC and input current will be emitter current IE. So this alpha will be a ratio of IC upon IE. Okay, that is collector current upon emitter current. And we always see that the collector current is little less than the emitter current because the base current has come out already. Okay, so therefore this value should be always less than 1. less than 1. It will be in the range of 0.90 to 0.99. So the value of alpha of a transistor is always less than 1. So here the option will be option B, less than 1. Okay. So the value of alpha of a transistor is always less than 1. Then we'll go to the next question, question number 47. Here there is an equation which is called a collector current IC is equal to current gain alpha multiplied by I plus what? Now the collector current is a percentage of I, we know. Okay, it will be 0.9% of I or 0.92% of I or 0.95% of I because alpha is always less than 1. So it is a percentage of I plus a leakage current plus the reverse bias leakage current plus the CBO, which is called as reverse bias leakage current. So here the option will be C, ICBO, which is the leakage current. So a collector current will be current gain alpha multiplied by emitter current IE plus the leakage current ICBO. So here the answer will be C, ICBO. Then we'll go to the question of 48. The output impedance of a transistor is, okay. Now here the output of a transistor, that is BJT, is taken across base and collector. Okay, and base and collector is always reverse biased, and once a junction is reverse biased, its resistance has to be high. So here the answer will be A, high. The output impedance of a transistor is high. Okay, then we'll go to the next question, question number 49. The collector of a transistor is dash doped. Okay, now here if you remember the layers of a BJT, the layers of BJT are known as emitter, base and collector. Now emitter has to give a source of charge carriers, so it is heavily doped. A base has to control the current, so it is lightly doped, and collector has to only collect the majority charge carriers, so it is moderately doped. So always the collector will be large in size, but if you see the doping of collector, it will be moderately doped. Its work is to collect the carriers which are coming from the emitter region. So it is moderately doped. So here the answer will be B. The collector of a transistor is moderately doped. Okay. Then we'll go to the next question, question number 50. In a NPN transistor, dash are the minority carriers. Now this question is little tricky, where he has not asked majority carriers, he has asked what are minority carriers. Now if you see NPN, so N is emitter, P is base, and again N is collector. That means majority charge carriers are coming from N region. So in N region, majority charge carriers are electrons. That means electrons will be the main charge carriers which will constitute the flow of current. That means here the majority charge carriers are electrons. That means automatically the minority charge carriers will be holes. So here the answer has to be B, holes. So here you can see in a NPN transistor, holes are the minority charge carriers. Okay. So these are few questions again what I have done on diode and BJT. Okay. And this you can just check it out. You can practice, you can learn and see that your basics are very clear. Okay, because the basics of a subject only will help you to develop the logic of answering a multiple choice question. If your basic is strong, you can attempt any type of question. So keep your basics clear. Try to read your books of previous semesters and see that your basic knowledge of semiconductors is very clear. That will always help you as long as you consider yourself as an electronic engineer, that semiconductor devices should be there in your blood. Okay, so here the basics should be very clear, and once your basics are clear, you can attempt any multiple choice question. Clear? Now with this video, I will end my third video here. I will continue with the next FET and MOS FETs in my next video. Thanks for watching. If you are having any feedback or if you want me to give any suggestion for improvement, you please feel free to speak to me or you can drop a message to me. Okay, thank you very much.